alkoxide or inorganic salts, you dissolve it in the solution, the solvent or in the solution, and at the end you bring it as a solid product, preferably nano, through formation of gel. Through formation of gel. When we use alkoxides, it is already having a chelating agent or complexing agent. You don't need to externally add the chelating agent or complexing agent or ligands, organic ligands. But in the modified Sol-Gel process, you will have to externally add these ligands or chelating agent or complexing agent. That facilitates the formation of gel. So why we require gel? Calcination or processing of the gel, you get a very fascinating morphologies, preferably nanostructure, sometimes porous, high surface area, many things. That's why. Anything else have you seen last class? Anybody would like to add anything on this? Shall we go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Anybody has any comments, clarifications? Okay. You would have heard about hydrocarbon cracking, isn't it? Have you heard about cracking?
Yes, sir. In fuel and combustion, sir, teach
In
that, sir.
fuel and combustion, you crack the large chain hydrocarbons into smaller carbon hydrocarbons. Using what?
Using heat, sir.
Using
Heat.
heat. Anybody else? How this
Yes, sir.
gasoline, diesel, or other fuels are made? What is the rough number of carbon you have in the gasoline or petrol? I'm sure you'll be able to tell some number, right? 20, 30 carbon chain. But in the crude oil, they are not of this number. They are having very large numbers, 70, 80, 100, 120. They are being broken, cracked, using some catalyst. The extensively used catalyst for hydrocarbon cracking are, can anyone complete? Zeolites. Zeolites. These zeolites are also extensively used very recently for different applications. Can you name that? No. Water purification. All RO system has a zeolites membrane. The membrane 2, membrane 3, membrane external, internal membrane that you see in the RO system. First at least first two membranes are consisting of zeolites. They capture ions. And the same zeolites also used as a catalyst for decomposing long chain hydrocarbons into smaller chain hydrocarbons, and you use it as a fuel. And there is also a saying that the life has originated from the process that you see on the screen. It's not exactly what you see on the screen, but it is geothermal conditions. There is a saying that the life has originated from the geothermal conditions. I'm sure you are aware of geothermal conditions, hot spring or eruption. So suddenly mountains erupts, and sometimes from the hot spring, not sometimes, from the hot spring, hot waters with the too much sulfur contents are erupted or ejected, etc. How this happens? There is high temperature, high pressure is built up inside the earth. If it is a magma, you get eruption. What is that? Volcano you get. So if not, you get water, hot spring. Japan, Korea, those places very famous. I had witnessed, I had experienced it. Hot springs. Similar condition or similar situation or experimental condition can be adopted to synthesize nanomaterials under the name hydrothermal synthesis. Hydrothermal synthesis. What it comes to your mind when you heard about hydrothermal? Am I audible? My screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. What comes to your mind when I say hydrothermal?
Water and heat, sir.
There is a combination of water and thermal energy, heating. What else comes to your mind?
Steam.
Stream. Yes, exactly. Anything else? Anything else comes to your mind when you heard about hydrothermal? It comes to me kitchen. It comes to me my mother or food, rice cooking or any other cooking using pressure cooker. Using pressure cooker. The same thing that is happening in the kitchen using pressure cooker can be done using a similar vessel in the lab. There you create food, here you will generate materials and preferably nanomaterials. Preferably solar cell materials, battery materials, catalytic materials, including carbon nanotubes. Including carbon nanotubes. Hydro refers to water. Thermal, definitely it's associated with the heat energy or heat. So hydrothermal means a reaction, heterogeneous reaction conducted at elevated temperature and closed conditions and a high pressure. Typically, just elevate above 100 degree until 1 bar of pressure. Something is conducted, some reaction is conducted. Or if any reaction which is of this nature, where the reactions are heterogeneous at elevated temperature and high pressure, is known as hydrothermal conditions, hydrothermal process. And so literally, you will have to take some vessel, strong vessel, content you take inside that, seal it completely so that no escape of gas or steam, no leakage of liquid, gas, etc. You start heating it. Inside you are taking some liquid. It could be a water. If it is a water, you name this method as a hydrothermal. This is similar to what mother cook at the kitchen. Take rice, add water, one 2/3 or 3/3, something like that, depending on the volume content. Close it with the lid, start heating it. Something happens inside. We don't know what happens. After a few minutes, after all the pressures are released, a nice rice, cooked rice is available. What is happening inside? What is happening to the water inside at the elevated temperature and high pressure? Whether the water remains as a water or behaves something else. That's what the chemistry is. Conducting reactions in the water at high temperature and pressure is known as hydrothermal conditions. This is similar to the geothermal condition. Naturally, we have that. Maybe in India, it's not very much available. Maybe Japan, maybe I think Bhutan or Nepal, they have such things also. Okay. So generally involves high pressure and high temperature involving water. And in this case, we conduct the reaction at that condition. And there is, as I told, there is a life origination from these conditions. From the high pressure, high temperature magma, it is erupted into the environment. And from there, life started having that. So this is the vessel you will use it, known as autoclave bomb. simply bomb. Okay, not atomic bomb, autoclave bomb. Those who have studied maybe biochemistry, biotechnology, they would have extensively used it. For different purposes, they are using it. This is known as bomb or autoclave bomb, made up of stainless steel. Outer jacket is made up of stainless steel, metallic jacket. Inside there is a strong or corrosion resistance Teflon coating. Okay, so the volume of this autoclave bomb is about 25 ml to even 250 ml. Even larger vessels are available depending on the requirement. Okay, so then you take all this content inside, start heating it. Now the question is, how will you heat it? How will you supply the heat to this? You can put in the oven or put it in a microwave oven. Instead of slow heating, you will heat very quickly. In either case, you are supplying the temperature or thermal energy. Water inside will undergo something and it cooks. If it is a rice, you get a cooked rice. If it is a nickel nitrate that you have dissolved in the water, you are going to get nickel oxide, preferably nano. If it is a combination of, let's say, zinc and copper nitrates, you are going to get a mixture of zinc and copper oxides or hydroxides. And you believe it or not, so tons of zeolites are made commercially using this method. I don't say they are nanomaterials, but zeolites are made. Sapphires are made. Amethyst is made. Tops made. Many fascinating crystals are made, aesthetically used. Ornaments are made. Not gold, but quartz, something like that. So if you use water as a solvent in this vessel, it refers to hydrothermal. It's not necessary that we need to use only water. You can also use other than water. Can you name any other solvent other than water?
Alcohol.
Alcohol, exactly. Ethanol, methanol, ethylene glycol, anything. Ethanol. So when we say alcohol, we generally mean ethanol. Okay. So if we use water, the reaction is known as, or the process is known as hydrothermal. If we use alcohol, can we call it as a hydrothermal process? No, because hydrothermal refers to water as the medium for the reaction. But instead of water, here we are using ethanol. It's not water, it is alcohol. So generally we call them as a solvothermal. Solvo is a mini version of solvent. Alcohol is a solvent. Ethanol is a solvent. Benzene is a solvent. Hexane is a solvent. So other than water is used as a solvent in hydrothermal process, it is known as solvothermal process. And how will you heat? You can, as I told, we can put it in the electrically heated furnace. Or you can also put in the microwave oven. If you use microwave oven for this treatment or this reaction, you call it as a microwave hydrothermal or microwave solvothermal. Microwave hydrothermal or microwave solvothermal. So now let us go to the chemistry part. What happens to the water when you start heating the water at a closed conditions? No escape for vapor and no leakage, and you are heating he is applying the thermal energy. You are heating the system. Slowly heating, room temperature 30 degree, 40 degree, 50 degree, 60 degree, 200, 300, 300 above. And it is a closed vessel. Pressure is 1 atmosphere, 1.1, 1.2, etc., 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 1 bar and above. What happens? What would be your response? Water will remain as water? if you start heating the water at a closed condition. If you heat the water under non-closed condition, if you don't close it, what will happen? Water will boil. So too much boiling will lead to evaporation. Correct? But if you close the vessel and start heating, what will happen? There is no escape for the vapor to escape. There is no pathway for water to escape or vapor to escape. It should remain in the vessel only. But high temperature and high pressure, you believe it or not, this water no longer behaves as water. And we call it as a supercritical water. Supercritical water. If it is water, we call it as a supercritical water. If it is something else, other solvent, for example, carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide in the form of liquid, and if you start heating at this condition, you call it as a supercritical solvent or liquids. Supercritical solvents or supercritical liquids. If it is water, supercritical water. So what happens to the properties of water at a supercritical condition? So this is the supercritical condition for water. 374.1 degree and a pressure of 221.2 is the supercritical condition. Several properties of water changes. Several properties of water changes. So if I ask you what are the properties of water, would be able to respond something? What are the properties of water you can think of? Can you name one or two properties of water? Is there any property?
Density.
What is the density of water?
1000 meter.
1 cc. 1 cc. Anything else you can think of properties of water? Has it got the dielectric constant? Yes, it has got dielectric constant, 80. It has got solubility product. It has got solubility. What is solubility? You take sodium chloride, go on adding into water. What happens? Water dissolves the sodium chloride. Then it means water has the ability to dissolve the sodium chloride, solubility. Water also has the ability to precipitate something. We have seen in the beginning of this unit, when you bring two chemicals together, there is a creation of supersaturation, nucleation, growth. Then there is a formation of colloidal or precipitate. Also has the ability to precipitate. All these properties are getting changed. All these properties are getting changed. For example, the dielectric constant of water is no longer maintaining 80 at a supercritical condition, and it decreases. You see here, dielectric constant of water at 130 degree is just 50, whereas at a normal condition it is 80. And the density is no longer 1 cc or 1 gram centimeter cube, it is less than that. And if you heat the water up to 200 degree under closed condition, the dielectric constant decreases further. Dielectric constant decreases further. And its density also very much decreased. 20% reduction in the density. Sharply decreasing. About 400 degree, the density of water is almost zero. Dielectric constant is also almost zero above or close to 500 degree. But up to 400 degree, very much decrease. And we know that sodium chloride will dissolve in water. But in supercritical water, amazingly, it will precipitate. Sodium chloride is precipitating in water. This is amazing. Whereas benzene and all these organic compounds will undergo miscibility. They will dissolve. Reverse happens. That is why it is interesting. Supercritical liquid. supercritical water. Sodium chloride is supposed to dissolve in water under normal condition, will precipitate at a supercritical condition. And benzene and pentane or any such organic materials, usually they don't mingle with solvent, organic, water as a solvent. They will not dissolve, they are immiscible, but in a supercritical condition, they will undergo miscibility. They will dissolve it. We can make use of these and create non-structured materials. Benzene will undergo miscible, completely miscible at this condition with water. You will not be able to make a emulsion. You know, when I introduce self-assembly, I ask you to take some volume of water, equal amount volume of benzene, have it in the same vessel and shake it, you get a bubbles. That bubble is known as a micro emulsion and is having some size. Then to that you add surfactant and it creates a micelles or reverse micelle will act as a reaction center. To that you add a cadmium source and a sulfide source, you get a cadmium sulfide or selenite, telluride, non-structured precipitated. But now if you do the same thing at 500 degree under closed condition, you will not be able to get micro emulsion. You will get a solution, homogeneous solution, totally different, where sodium chloride will dissolve, will precipitate. Sodium chloride will dissolve in, precipitate in water. Amazing. Density is no longer 1, very less. Very less. So not only sodium chloride, calcium chloride, all will be precipitated under hydrothermal conditions. So these are the components used in a hydrothermal process. Okay, so it is having a Teflon-lined material inside, and it can also be replaced with the quartz, because at such high temperature it has to be very stable, should be corrosion free. It should be corrosion free and it should withstand the pressure, etc. And outer jacket is made up of metal. We have it. And it can be heated up to 200 degree, depending on the inner and outer jacket. It can be heated up to 400 degree, 500 degree also. These are the components. This is the schematic view. This is the schematic view. Inside jacket made up of Teflon, outside jacket, inside container, outside jacket. So this volume ranges from 25 ml to 100 ml. We have up to 100 ml. Always please remember that you have to fill half of that or less than half. Otherwise, it's very dangerous. Even otherwise also it is dangerous to use this one. Sometimes too much pressure is built up. Okay, so these are they go damage. Sometimes even metals get, this outer jacket gets damaged. We have to replace several times. High pressure is built. You are just eating, but very high pressure is built. Several tars is spent, and better exfoliation of the components, autoclave bomb. Here is the content, reaction content. Maybe one of my students have synthesized a nickel nitrate or cobalt nitrate, some cobalt oxide or nickel oxide, something like that. And you believe it or not, the single crystal of silicon was made by this method. Hydrothermally grown single crystal of silicon. There are several methods available for creation of single crystals. You know crystalline phases, multicrystalline or polycrystalline. I'm talking about now single crystalline. What are single crystals? Same phase. Throughout the crystal, same phase, 111 plane or 100 plane of silicon or any other material. And it can be synthesized using or can be grown using this autoclave bomb. There are other methods, commercial methods available for growing single crystals for silicon or any other semiconductors or any other materials. Zakralowski method, Stockbeck methods, and this is hydrothermal methods. So you are taking the solvent inside the vessel. Someone interrupted. Would like to ask anything? Anybody would like to make something? You'll go ahead. Am I connected? Yes, connected.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So you take the solvent or water inside the autoclave bomb and start heating. So after the reaction is completed, usually it takes 10 hours, 12 hours, okay, depending on the heating rate and temperature. So then you cool down to room temperature and you have done. You get metal oxides, preferably nanostructures, titanium oxide, vanadium oxide, LiMnO2, LiCO2, LiMn2O4, many things. You will also be able to get nanowires and nanotubes, layered oxides, carbon nanotubes can also be made. Even metals can be made sometimes. It may not be nickel metal, cobalt metal, etc., but bismuth metal can be made using this supercritical condition, hydrothermal condition. Similar condition what our mother encounters at the kitchen. Same condition. There rise here chemicals. The process is same. There you get cooked rice. You take raw rice and bring about as a cooked rice. Now here in lab using this autoclave bomb, you dissolve salts in the solvent or water. After the reaction, you bring in the form of a solid or colloids, metals, metal oxides, hydroxides, carbon nanotubes, etc. So here is one example. If someone has synthesized titanium oxide nanoparticle, they have taken titanium alkoxides. You can also take any other metal salt. And not water as a solvent. Here they have taken alcohol. Autoclave it. What is the condition? 523 to 573 Kelvin. You can convert into Fahrenheit or degree. Then you have done. You wash it repeatedly to remove the unreacted titanium alkoxide or alcohol. Dry it. Then observe using microscope, TEM or SEM microscope, and you have done. This is 50 nanometer, and you can imagine what is the size of these titanium oxide grains. Why titanium oxide nanoparticles are very important? It's one of the very important material for solar cell applications, dye-sensitized solar cell applications, hydrogen fuel generation material, catalysis, and it is also even being used for battery applications in the form of LTO, lithiated titanate. And barium titanate also can be prepared. What is the importance of this material? Barium titanate, anybody come across? Barium titanate. It's one of the popularly used dielectric material to create capacitors, solid state capacitors or condensers. Insulating material, barium titanate. And it can be prepared between the 300 to 450 degree hydrothermal conditions by taking barium hydroxide and titanium oxide, and you are done, you are getting barium titanate. Not only that, Li2FeSiO4 embedded on the carbon matrix as a composite can also be synthesized using hydrothermal method. What is the importance of this material? This material is used as a cathode material for lithium ion battery, lithium iron silicate, lithium cobalt oxide, lithium iron phosphate are other examples. V2O5 can also be synthesized. Vanadium pentoxide nanowires, nanotubes can also be synthesized. You believe it or not, these vanadium pentoxides are used as earlier cathodes for battery applications. So since I work on batteries, I have taken liberty to introduce many battery materials. Need not be only battery applications, for any other applications. Generally, take-home point is, using this hydrothermal process, it is possible to make nanostructured materials. And it is industrially viable technology, viable method to synthesize any materials or industrially important materials for using hydrothermal conditions. I am sure these names are familiar to you. Many female students are there, so they might like all these stones. Emerald stone, naturally occurring emerald stone. Much pretty or much better looking synthetic emerald can be made by using hydrothermal conditions. Not only natural and emerald, amethyst, fascinating crystals, stones, which are embedded in the ornaments. They need not be only made up of zirconia, but it can be made up of even amethyst. Naturally occurring amethyst, how it looking, but synthetically grown by means of hydrothermal. I don't call these are all nanomaterials. Okay, I don't call these as nanomaterials, but application of hydrothermal process I'm talking about. You see how fascinating the color. The synthetic is much prettier than the natural one in terms of color. Sapphire, another fascinating crystal. Major component Cl2O3, aluminum, can be made by tons of these materials are made. Fascinating materials are citron. How it looks, naturally available citron and homegrown or lab grown synthetic citron. Quartz can be grown in the lab using hydrothermal process. I think I'm done with the hydrothermal process. Anybody would like to make some comments? Anything you want to ask on hydrothermal process?
Sir, in titanium oxide synthesis, they
Yes.
washed with acetone. Why it was particularly washed with acetone? Else we can use some other chemicals also for washing purpose.
So here there titanium alkoxides are used, right, as a precursor, and alcohol as a solvent. Okay, alcohol as a solvent. Generally, organic material can be removed using organic solvents. Generally, inorganic salts or inorganic materials can be removed using inorganic salt, that is water. Okay, so that is one reason. That is one reason. I can also link other terminology. It is difficult to remove non-polar material using polar or vice versa. What are non-polar and polar? I think when I give example that will be clear. Water is a polar solvent. Carbon tetrachloride is not a polar solvent. It's difficult to wash these two. Okay, that's one. That's the reason. Organic will dissolve in organic. Inorganic will dissolve in inorganic. Polar, polar, non-polar, non-polar. That's the reason. Okay, anything else? Anybody else? Hydrothermal conditions. So we'll move to the next a synthetic process. Very minimal on this. A simple technique one can do at any place, any lab can be conducted. This thermal decomposition or pyrolysis. Thermal decomposition or pyrolysis or thermal pyrolysis, whatever you can name it. Thermolysis also. It's very simplest method of making materials. What you have to take is you have to take highly volatile or easily decomposing or easily pyrolyzing materials as a precursor, preferably metal carbonyls. They are all known as metal carbonyls or oxalate, acetate, etc. or even formates. These are all formates. formic acid and it's a salt, or oxalic acid and it's a salt, metal oxalates, carbonyls, formates, oxalates, generally organometallic compounds. What you have to do? You will have to just heat it. You take it in a vessel, a stable vessel. Depending on the material, you will have to heat up to 300 degree, 400 degree, 500 degree, etc. And you have done the synthetic process. What will happen? The precursor molecule will undergo decomposition. For example, if your precursor molecule is iron pentacarbonyl, iron 5 carbonyl, iron pentacarbonyls, heat up to certain temperature, 300, 400 degree. And you are done, you get the nanoparticles of iron. Or you take formates, metal formates. It can be nickel metal formate, nickel formate, cobalt formate, iron formate, copper, or anything, whatever the oxide or metal you want to take it. Or instead of formate, you take oxalates, you pyrolyze it. You take it in a vessel, alumina boat or alumina crucible, start eating, nothing required. And the reaction is done, you will end up with the metals, preferably metals, metal oxides also sometimes, many times. But there are demerits of this method. It's very difficult to get spherical particles. And it is also very difficult to get very narrow size particle distribution. But this method will offer you to synthesize powder form of materials, preferably. But for applications, we require maybe a spherical morphology is required, narrow particle size distribution is required, and the method should be easy, homogeneous in compositions. But this method may not serve. Okay, it is difficult to control the particle size and shape. Sir, na iniki varanga sir. I am in a meeting. I will call you later. Okay. So thermal decomposition, pyrolysis or thermolysis. Simple method. One can do in any lab. You require sometimes only test tube or alumina boat under some 300, 400 degree operating furnace. Clean, KLEN, clean, electrically heated furnace. And it is possible to make nanostructured materials. So we will move to a very important method. This is also commercially applied method. CVD, chemical vapor depositions. As the name implies, something is deposited. From vapor phase or gaseous phase using some chemicals. That's what the name implies. Chemical vapor depositions or chemical vapor transport. There is a little difference. You bring two chemicals together from the gaseous state and allow them to react together and deposit as a precipitate or a solid on a substrate at a suitable condition. That suitable condition is essentially temperature. For example, you have a acetylene molecule, acetylene gas. Allow it to undergo decomposition on the silicon substrate, and you will be able to get carbon nanotubes or fullerene or sometimes a graphene. Or you take silane. What is silane? SiH4. And bring them from the vapor phase and decompose at a high temperature on a substrate. You are going to get silicon vapors. Then in another hand, you take a phosphorus source, you dope it, or anything else. From the gaseous state chemicals or volatile compounds in the gaseous phase, you are making them to react together on the substrate or above the substrate. If the reaction is conducted on the substrate, it typically known as chemical vapor deposition. Solid is deposited from the gaseous state. Reaction is occurring on the substrate. If the reaction is occurring on the gaseous state and then product is forming, it is chemical vapor transport, simply known as CVD or CVT, extensively used in the semiconducting industries to make thin film nanostructures. How will you do this? You require a kiln. A furnace is required. High temperature furnace is required depending on the material that you want to generate. For example, if someone wants to synthesize a silicon material, then you need to know silicon source. Or if someone wants to synthesize a carbon material, you need to know carbon source, preferably in the gaseous form. So one of the common sources, carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, acetylene, etc. So you draw it, slowly allow to the substrate, heat the furnace up to suitable temperature, tightly close it, there is no leakage. Then this acetylene will decompose, produce carbon. So depending on the condition or the catalyst you use it, either it will develop carbon nanotube or fullerene or Buckminster fullerene, etc. The rest unreacted or decomposed other products should be exhausted. It's as simple as that. I think this cartoon will give you better information. It is possible to synthesize silicon nanostructures or thin film with the doping of either boron or phosphorus. So all these are all gaseous state, and silicon tetrachloride is in the liquid state and it has to be converted into vapor. Then together you bring them, allow them to react on the substrate, and this is the furnace where the temperature is maintained at a required temperature. And after the reaction is taking place, either when the reaction is either taking place on the substrate or off the surface substrate, so product will be formed, decomposed or unused material should be sent to vent. How will you supply the temperature? You can use electrical heated furnace and supply the thermal energy. Or you can use high energy ions, plasmas, to create the high temperature. Or it is also possible to use laser to have a very high temperature. Or even photons can be used to heat the system. So depending on these sources, the processing time, the quality of the material, thin film, nanofilm will be different. In the case of laser-based chemical vapor deposition, it is possible to control the thickness because the laser intensity can be controlled, unlike other cases. Okay, so laser intensity can be controlled. So higher the intense laser beam, so better the deposition. Of course, in other cases also, higher the temperature, better the reaction rate, and higher the impinging of plasma, maybe better the reaction rate. What are the starting material you can take? Halides, hydrides, metal organic compounds, and carbonyls are typically used as starting materials. From these starting materials, it is possible to make metals, metal alloys, carbides, nitrides, borides, oxides, preferably in the form of a nanofilm or thin film. From this starting material, this is the product you will get it, metal nitrate. So for example, if you are using silicon and carbon sources as a reactant, after CVD process, you are going to end up with the carborundum. silicon carbide, or any other material for that matter. How it happens? This is how it happens. There are 7 processes or 7 steps are taking place in the CVD process. The first step is to transport the reactant from the vessel or the container to the deposition region where the deposition of the product can take place. First step is transport. Then second step is transport of reactant to the vicinity of a reaction center by using the carrier gases. Second step. Then in the third step, these reactants will undergo adsorption on the substrate, and it can also be called as a wafer, silicon wafer or any other wafer. Then fourth step is the actual reaction. Actual chemical reaction is taking place. What are the chemical reaction can take place? Next slide, please wait for that. Once the reaction is taking place, so definitely there will be a formation of the product and there will be byproducts. So it is transported. And they have to be lifted. Fifth and sixth steps, transport of byproducts, desorption of byproduct, product stays here, only byproducts lift, unreacted molecules are lifted, and then seventh step, so byproducts are transported to the vent or exhaust. So the deposition amount or the rate of or the velocity of deposition depends on the diffusion of gas phases towards the substrate. How quickly it can diffuse from here to here will determine the deposition rate. Why deposition rate is important? Higher the deposition rate, you will get thicker the material or vice versa. And the deposition rate is also depends on the type or the rate of the reaction. How quick or how slow is the reaction taking place on the substrate will determine the deposition rate, which is directly will give you the thickness. You can ask me what are the reactions? These are the reaction can take place: pyrolysis, reduction, oxidation, compound formation. Just now we have seen pyrolysis. What is pyrolysis? Decomposition, thermal decompositions. This is your starting material in the form of a gaseous state, and if you are heating this material in the furnace at 650 degree, and it will undergo decomposition, pyrolysis. Decomposition nothing but pyrolysis, thermolysis. You get silicon. Or if this is your starting material at 180 degree itself, very low temperature compared to 650 degree, you are going to get nickel metal. This is just a decomposition of one compound into product. Or it is also possible to conduct the reduction reactions in CVD. You take CCl4, SiCl4, silicon tetrachloride, and reduce it using hydrogen. This is definitely a reduction reaction. Reduction reaction you can define a different way. One of the way is to add the hydrogen to the system, or add the electrons, or remove the oxygen. Are the example for reduction reactions. Wolfram can be synthesized, molybdenum can be synthesized, silicon can be synthesized by using hydrogen as a reducing agent from their respective salts. It is also possible to conduct the oxidation reaction where you will end up with, instead of metals, thin film, oxides you will get it. Because there is an involvement of oxygen in oxidation. In the reduction, involvement of hydrogen. In the oxidation, is not a great thing, involvement of oxygen. So from this precursor, you are going to get SiO2 thin film. From this precursor, under this condition, you are going to get aluminum oxide. And it is also possible to make semiconductors, compound formation example for compound formation reaction. So for example, tetramethyl gallium made to react with arsine, silane, arsine, arsen ASH3. So at this temperature, you are going to get gallium arsenide nanostructures. And boron nitride nanomaterials also, a thin film also possible to make it. Generally, this CVD method is very much useful in synthesizing in the form of thin films for metal oxides, metal carbides, preferably, very much extensively used. Instead of thermal heated heat source, so if you use plasma, it is called PECVD, plasma enhanced CVD. High energy ions are used to drive the temperature, to bring about the temperature. Okay, so or LECVD, laser enhanced CVD. They are very expensive. Both are very expensive to have it. But CVD, we can have it in any lab. We have this lab, just chemical vapor deposition we have in our lab. Electrically heated furnace can be used. But plasma enhanced and laser enhanced CVDs are very expensive. But there is a merit in that. You can control the thickness and other things. If this is your target material, and this is the reactive gases in the reaction medium, in CVD method, this is the resultant compound you are going to get it. Aluminum as a target material, substrate, and the reactive gas is oxygen. Definitely at that high temperature, you are going to get a thin film of aluminum oxide. Similarly, if the titanium is a substrate, what does that substrate mean? Here, this one. This is the substrate, vapor. If the titanium is substrate, nitrogen is a carrier gas or reactive gas. All other things are closed, high temperature, you are going to get titanium nitride. Similarly, if zinc is a metal substrate and oxygen is the carrier gas or reactive gas, you are going to get zinc oxide. Or if you have a combination of indium and strontium and the gas in reactive gas is oxygen, you are going to get respective oxides. There are merits and demerits of this method, similar to other cases. Excuse me. High merits are, it's possible to have a very high growth because you can control the gas flow rate. And a substrate, instead of having a plane, you can tilt it so that better deposition can be made. Okay, so it is possible to deposit materials which are very much difficult to otherwise evaporate it by using chemical vapor depositions. Whether you do or I do or anybody else do, you get a very good reproducibility for chemical vapor depositions. You can mimic. For example, if I develop a process today and give it to you tomorrow, and if you repeat it, you will get to reproducibility, 100% reproducibility. That is greatness of the merits of these methods. But there are demerits associated with this method also. It involves high temperature, definitely 500 degrees, 1000 degrees, sometimes more than 1000 degrees, which is not risk-free. And sometimes the reactions are complex because the starting material may be very complex. And many times, since the used precursors are organic in nature, after the reaction, there is a emission of toxic gases or corrosive gases. Are there disadvantages? But very much used to synthesize non-structured thin films. Thin films of nanomaterials can be made by using chemical vapor deposition or chemical vapor transportation. So we will stop now. We will continue the carbon nanotube in the next class. So if anybody would like to add or make some comments, any questions, you can ask. You can stop now.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Louder,
please. Louder, please.
How photon can be used as an energy resource in the CVD, sir?
Photons. See, so sun radiation it is possible to concentrate and make it as a high temperature, right? Sun radiation consists of photons. Any radiation has a photon. That photon has a energy. That energy can be converted into thermal energy. You shine the photons on some substrate. It may not be very it may not be possible to achieve very high temperature, but definitely moderate temperature possible to obtain using sun radiations. Definitely, it is possible to create heat using photons. May not be very high temperature, but moderate temperature. So if any such material can be synthesized at a moderate temperature, it is possible. Did I respond?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So anybody else? So all of you have completed registration of the courses. I hope so.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Completed, sir.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So if there are no clarification or comments on the topic, we will stop now. So next class we will see carbon nanotubes. See you. Bye.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.